Good afternoon, Brazil. Are you enjoying your time yet? Can I get some energy? Whoa! Great. I feel so excited and humbled to be standing on this stage today in front of this amazing audience. I got to tell you something. I travel the world, and I've been standing on many stages of MAMA on a lot of different countries. But this is my first time in Brazil. And what I've seen over the past week in Brazil is really, really unique. I'm seeing a land of opportunities and growth. I'm seeing people that are excited, positive, and not to mention the kindness of the Brazilian people and the addictive energy that can be found here. My name is Karen, and I'm the Global Vice President of Product Marketing for AppsFlyer. I've been with AppsFlyer for the past 6 years, but in total, I've been in this industry for 8 years. Now, if you, like me, have been in this industry for a while, I assume that you would agree that growth marketing has never been easy. We always had aggressive targets to hit, right? And we have to start all over again, every month or every quarter. Over the past years, marketers had to deal with constant changes: COVID, post-COVID, privacy changes, economic downturns, political tensions, you name it. But today it's much, much harder. Gal started the day earlier by mentioning the major forces that are affecting us today. And one of the main ones is signal loss, right? And I'm sure that you're hearing this term a lot. But what do we actually mean when we say signal loss? The most obvious aspect of signal loss is the loss of our identifiers. IDFA on iOS, what we're going to see with the deprecation of the Google Ad ID with Sandbox. We see the crumbling of the third-party cookies. But the less obvious part of signal loss is that there is a whole ecosystem that depends on those signals to operate. Those identifiers have been once an unofficial language used across all the components and parties in this ecosystem to allow us to optimize our campaigns, target audiences, and measure the effectiveness of our ads. Losing those signals is much more than losing data. It impacts the basis of how we operate as an industry. And signal loss comes at a great cost, as you can see. It clouds reality. It reduces confidence. It hampers our growth. And we still have to hit those aggressive targets, right? Now, there is something to note about the loss of user identifiers. While they're becoming more scarce, they're not completely gone. Before ATT, we had 80% of the IDFAs because people could opt out with limited ad tracking. Today, we have only 25% of those IDFAs. And while I acknowledge that it's a massive drop, this is not marginal. But why is this important? What can we do with 25% of IDFAs? This is data with full granularity that can be used for modeling. Now, on top of signal loss, and Gal mentioned that also, there's huge data fragmentation. And data fragmentation exists in a lot of different areas. There's data fragmentation in the operating systems. Look at what happened with iOS since the launch of iOS 13 3.5 years ago. We've seen increased data fragmentation in iOS, right? And there is fragmentation in all the different ad networks. self-attributing networks and click-based networks, they all have their different models and their own approach to privacy. We're also expected to see more fragmentation within the app stores. Courts, right now, are creating an environment where more app stores are going to emerge. Think about adding that dynamic into your marketing strategy. And it's not just about the app stores and the ad networks. Consider SCAN, SKAd network. Why isn't SKAd network more adopted? Why isn't SKAd network your only single source of truth for everything iOS? It's a good question, right? This is what we would expect. Because Apple has taken an approach of giving you delayed signals. Yet our infrastructure has been built to ingest and manage data in real time. So SKAd network doesn't really work with the way we operate in this ecosystem. With data fragmentation, it's hard to find success and to scale. And it's only going to get muddier. We're going to see more regulations that are going to come our way. The Privacy Manifest, the Digital Market Act, and there's more coming our way. And we're going to have to adapt through additional models, right? Scan 4, we're not there yet. Privacy Sandbox, Meta AEM, Google ODM, CAPI. It's a lot of work for all of us. So, how can marketers overcome signal loss to effectively measure their return on ad spend? How can they deal with so many different, ever-changing frameworks? And most importantly, how can this all be actionable? The only way to untangle and understand the complex measurement reality in the privacy era is to categorize and to open its various components one by one. First thing first, the attribution methods by the operating systems. When it comes to SCAN, Apple has taken an approach of user consent, aggregation, and delayed signals. In 2023, we've seen elevated know-how among marketers, ad networks, and MMPs to the massive changes of iOS and ATT. And with SCAN, there are definitely improved capabilities. In fact, we are seeing the iOS non-organic installs increased by 9% year over year in 2023, after a plunge of 15% that he has taken in 2022. On the other side, we have Sandbox. And while there are a lot of similarities between SKAd Network and Sandbox, they're also very different. With Sandbox, there's no user consent. And it includes capabilities for both attribution, targeting, and retargeting. And while the rollout of Sandbox is probably going to be smoother than the one with ATT, it still represents a major change that will take some time for adjustment. So, all in all, when it comes to SKAd Network and Sandbox, data is still incomplete, late, and limited, even in Scan 4. And there are still a lot of sources and data streams. And yes, there is still a complete lack of standardization. Then, to further untangle, we need modeling. And let's face it, modeling is not a new thing. It has been around for a very long time. But since the data was mostly deterministic, we didn't really need modeling. But in today's reality, modeling is a must to fill the gaps in attribution. And yes, there are modeling that are not infringing user privacy. AppsFlyer is leveraging modeling, like many other companies, for attribution, conversions, LTV. media mix modeling, and incrementality. On the other side of the house, we have the media partners, and they are also leveraging modeling, right? We're seeing Meta, AEM, the G-Braid with Google, and also the private set intersections done by Snap and by TikTok. On top of the need of modeling for privacy, now there's also means to do it. With AI, modeling has become 100 times better. So, innovative solutions have been developed to fill the gaps in OS attribution. But it has created another problem. There are more fragmentation and additional sources, and it's just unbearable. So how do we at AppsFlyer approach this challenge? To illustrate the complexity of today's measurement reality, we're going to go a little bit technical. This is Sandbox. And when I say Sandbox, I only mean Sandbox for mobile. And when I say Sandbox for mobile, I only mean the attribution API. And when I say the attribution API, I'm not talking about the full attribution. I'm speaking only about the aggregation service. And to be able to do that, there are a lot of processes that need to happen. First, we need to establish a service and an endpoint on end user devices to be able to grab the postbacks. Then, we need to encrypt them and batch them and upload them into a trusted cloud environment. Then, we need to fetch the keys to decrypt the postbacks, and only once that is done, you can query the data and get the attribution results. And only then, you can put the data into your S3 buckets or data warehouse and gain the insights through a data visualization tool. So this is just the aggregation service of Sandbox. But guess what? There's more. We're building a Sandbox studio, so you can configure what you want to measure within Sandbox. And there's certainly iOS. And with iOS, you have Scan, which also has a conversion studio and media partners integrations. And of course, you have Apple Search Ads, which is a completely separate API, which will return deterministic data that you need to integrate and get the data and run last-click attribution against. And there are more parts to iOS. We're not done yet. You may be running with advanced SRN solutions like the ones that we have for Snap and TikTok. And then separately, you have the consented IDFA data and the probabilistic data. And you'll have, of course, the Android attribution with the Google Advertising ID and Google Referral. And then you have the model data. This can be null modeling for compensating for null values in Scan. This could be geomodeling or LTV modeling. And you'll want ad spend data. You'll want to ingest your cost into the same system to accurately compute return on ad spend. Then you have the fraud protection for attribution. And you can quickly see how complicated this is all becoming. But it's not just about managing the data that is the issue. The challenge is how do you have one single view of your marketing picture? At AppsFlyer, we believe that you need to have a unified single source of truth for doing this. One view, one way for marketing. I mean, product has their view on your business. Finance has their view on your business. Marketing needs his view as well. How are you going to make decisions if you're not confident about your data? How are you going to have a seat at the table with management if you're not confident about your bottom line? Since we've launched our single source of truth, and our customers have adopted it, we're seeing tremendous results. In average, an app sees 62% increase in revenue, 40% decrease in eCPI, and 29% lift in attribution. Here's a quote from Chris Kim, Director of User Acquisition of MobilityWare, who said, "We incorporated AppsFlyer's single source of truth as a new signal for our optimization efforts. The impact was not only measurable, but honestly quite impressive." These are his words, not mine. So, we covered how we created a single source of truth. It now includes everything iOS, and soon will include everything Android. But as we see it, having accurate and trusted measurement is at the core of your stack. Otherwise, the integrity of your decision is at risk. Now, just as measurement is important, the signals that are managed on top of your measurement are important as well. Those signals are the postbacks that are being sent to your partners. And you need a machine, a strong machine that operates in real time and at scale to help you manage those signals. And we talked about signal loss, right? As the industry loses signals, there is a need to create new ones. Single source of truth is a signal that you can trust. It's a signal that you can feed into your models. And we're not ending with the single source of truth. We want to create new signals for you. Recently, we connected with the top ad networks in the ecosystem to develop enriched engagement types. Those are new metrics that are going to allow you better understand how your users interact with your ads. And it's not just about the signals. We're creating a new standard. We want all the partners to adopt the same standard. And there are also signals from incrementality and lift test and media mix modeling. Finally, think about all the apps that sits on top of this stack. There are the apps that AppsFlyer builds, there are the apps that you are building in-house, and there are all the third-party apps that can be found in the AppsFlyer marketplace. Let me give you some examples. If we believe at AppsFlyer that we can leverage our data uniquely to build something for the market that nobody else can do better, we're going to take that shot. Let's take our anti-fraud solution, for example, Protect 360. AppsFlyer has 65% of the market share, so we sit on top of massive, massive data sets. And that allows us to be uniquely positioned to run machine learning against that data, right? To find anomalies and block the fraudulent installs. Another example is our creative analytics solution that we've launched last year and that we're seeing tremendous adoption for. We're using AI to break creatives into all the different components of that creatives and let you optimize it. So there's applications that sit on the stack that AppsFlyer delivers, and there's also applications that you're delivering in-house. Think about all the modeling that you're doing with AppsFlyer data. You're doing predictions around incrementality and LTV, and many of you have bid automation systems that data from our platforms needs to feed. And finally, there are many companies that are emerging that want to create efficiency for your business. And they need access to data in order to do that. So with your consent, we're going to allow these companies to unlock all the innovation in the marketplace. So it doesn't really matter who develops those apps, as long as they sit on the same stack. So, to summarize, attribution is one of the most complex and important areas for marketers today. But no matter what additional change comes our way, no matter what additional signal is going to go away, we are here to take this complexity out of your hands and make sure you continue to have trusted, unbiased, accurate data and signals, this is the foundation of everything. It provides confidence in the models despite loss of signals. It allows for scale despite increasing fragmentation. It feeds AI models without compromising on user privacy. It creates trust, and most importantly, it allows you to take the right decisions that will allow you to fuel growth. So Brazil, I wanted to say something in Brazilian and Portuguese, and I actually forgot. So I'm going to try. Brasil, apaixonada por você. Thank you so much.